Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria, a name that shook the world in the 20th century, became the symbol of fear, money, and unimaginable power. Born on December 1, 1949, in the small town of Rio Negro, Colombia, and raised in the outskirts of Medellin, Pablo came from a poor but hardworking family. His father was a farmer and his mother was a school teacher. Yet from an early age, Pablo carried a different fire inside him. While other children played, he dreamed of shortcuts to wealth and power. Even as a teenager, he dabbled in petty crimes, selling contraband cigarettes, stealing cars, and even robbing tombstones from cemeteries to resell them. But Pablo was ambitious. He soon realized that the real money wasn't in small hustles. It was in drugs. In the 1970s, cocaine was becoming the new obsession in the United States, and Escobar saw his opportunity. If he could control the supply chain, he could control everything. By the end of the decade, Pablo had built the Medellin cartel, an empire that would soon dominate the global cocaine trade. By the early 1980s, Pablo Escobar was smuggling tons of cocaine into the United States every week. His cartel supplied over 80% of America's cocaine, and his fortune grew beyond imagination. It is said that Escobar earned as much as $60 million a day. His money was so vast that he stored it in warehouses, and billions of dollars were literally eaten by rats or damaged by moisture. But it didn't matter. He had more money than entire nations. Yet Escobar didn't want to be seen only as a criminal. He wanted to be remembered as a hero, a savior of the poor. In Medellin, he built housing for the homeless, football fields for the youth, and hospitals for the sick. To the people living in the slums, he was El Patron, or even the Robin Hood of Medellin. Children sang his name, and communities protected him. But behind this Robin Hood image was a man who ruled with blood and terror. When Escobar entered politics in 1982 and was elected to the Colombian Congress, he thought he was on the path to becoming a national leader. But his wealth, his drug empire, and his ruthless reputation couldn't be hidden for long. Journalists began exposing him. Politicians stood against him, and Pablo responded with his famous philosophy: plata o plomo, silver or lead. In other words, take the bribe or take a bullet. And so Colombia entered one of the darkest periods in its history. Judges, journalists, police officers, politicians, anyone who opposed him was either bought or killed. His cartel planted bombs in cities, assassinated presidential candidates, and even blew up a commercial airliner just to kill one man. Thousands of lives were lost in the bloody war Escobar waged against the Colombian state. Medellin became a war zone, and Escobar became the most feared criminal on earth. But his enemies were growing. The United States government and the DEA joined hands with Colombian forces to bring him down. Escobar was too powerful to be ignored. His drugs were destroying lives in America, and his violence was destabilizing Colombia. To avoid extradition to the U.S., Escobar struck a shocking deal. He would surrender, but only if he could stay in Colombia in a prison of his own design. And so La Catedral was built. But it wasn't a prison. It was a palace. Inside, Escobar lived in luxury with a bar, a jacuzzi, a football field, and everything he desired. He ran his empire from within its walls, mocking the authorities. But when he started ordering murders inside his own prison, the government had enough. They moved to transfer him, and Escobar escaped, vanishing into the shadows of Medellin once more. From 1992 to 1993, Pablo Escobar became the most hunted man in the world. The DEA, Colombian Special Forces, and even rival cartels were after him. He used his deep network of safe houses and the loyalty of Medellin's poor to evade capture again and again. But the walls were closing in. On December 2, 1993, just one day after his 44th birthday, Pablo Escobar was finally tracked down to a modest house in Medellin. Surrounded by police, he tried to flee across the rooftops, but this time his luck ran out. A hail of bullets ended the life of the man who had risen from poverty to become the king of cocaine. Pablo Escobar died, but his legend did not. To some, he remains the world's most ruthless criminal, responsible for tens of thousands of deaths and the destruction of a nation. To others, he is remembered as the man who gave homes to the homeless and built hospitals where there were none. His story is a paradox, one of unimaginable wealth, power, and terror, mixed with the strange admiration of the people he helped. Today, Escobar lives on in movies, documentaries, and TV shows. But his life leaves behind a haunting question. If Pablo Escobar had chosen to use his power and wealth for good, could he have been remembered as one of history's greatest leaders instead of its most notorious drug lord?